of interest in this.
That's 4 more.
Oh, that's a beauty. That's a beauty. Oh, get out of here.
Getting strong appeal, and this time the fingers up.
Three tests, 14 50s, 600s, 4 5-wicket hauls and 7 debutants. It really has been an incredible test series between home side Australia and touring team South Africa. Each team coming into this series with its own set of problems. Australia on a run of poor form in both Test and ODI, while South Africa had injury concerns over key players and the loss of skipper A.B. de Villiers to necessary surgery on a problematic elbow. Problems aside, Australia's poor run of form continued and South Africa dominated the first 2 test matches. Once in control, the Proteas never looked back and closed out the Baggy Greens in both tests. Third and final test saw the Aussies find some of their determination and fight in order to defeat the Proteas by 7 wickets. With me to unpack this 3-match series, former Zimbabwean cricket captain Alistair Campbell and cricketing great Mike Proctor. Gentlemen, what an awesome series it's been.
Heck of a series, and credit to South Africa. They played absolutely superbly well. I mean, who would have thought in that first day in Perth they were in all sorts of trouble, rescued by Quinton de Kock and managed to get to 242, and then the Aussies were 157 for no wicket at lunchtime on the second day they lost Dale Steyn, and it all looked doom and gloom, and what a fight back from there.
Absolutely. I think both teams going into this test series with a little bit of trepidation. Australia had just come off the back of being thrashed by Sri Lanka 3-0, and then in the one-day series by South Africa 5-0. South Africa hadn't had a good run in the last 12 months, but came back and beat New Zealand in South Africa. But South Africa would have looked at the venue, and Perth is a good venue for South Africa. They'd won the last 2 matches played here, the last 2 series. So that they would have gone in with some confidence. But it was such an interesting test match because South Africa, off to not a very good start, 4 down for 32, ended up getting 240 odd. Bavuma getting runs, Quinton de Kock, magnificent 84. And from there, on the first day, as you said, Australia were 105 for no wicket. So South Africa were really behind the 8 ball, and things were looking very bleak.
Looking at the first test, it really was an opportunity for either side to stake a claim and take control of the series. The Perth wicket was suited to both teams' pace attack, but only South Africa managed to find the right linen length. Mike Proctor.
Yeah, absolutely. Dale Steyn got injured after bowling 12.5 overs in the first innings and having got the important wicket of Dave Warner, who made 97. And from there, the rest of the bowlers really seemed to uplift their game and bowled magnificently. The fielders fielded well and restricted Australia from 150 odd for no loss to 244 all out, having South Africa made 242. And then South Africa in the second innings, magnificent. Elgar and Bavuma, de Kock. But it was Durmani who got the runs, 140 with Elgar. That put on a stand of 250, which really swung the game South Africa's way. And Australia needed a real rear guard action in the second innings, but they couldn't manage it. They were 140 odd for 4 and then collapsed to 160 all out. But a really good performance by South Africa.
Alistair Campbell, great performance certainly by the rookies, Rabada and Maharaj, taking 2 wickets and 3 wickets each respectively.
Yeah, really good. And don't forget Vernon Philander. I mean, he came to the party as well, 4 wickets for him. So I think when you lose a bowler, one of the most important aspects is that your spinner has to bowl a lot more overs, hold up and end, and not only do a containing role, but also become a wicket-taking option as well. And that's where I think Maharaj really stepped up to the plate, is that he did that job, shouldered that responsibility. They knew they were 1 seamer short, so he'd have to do a lot more bowling. And he did that marvellously well and ended up with that 3 wickets and really bowled superbly well. On a Perth wicket, and that's notoriously not really kind to spinners.
Yeah, Australia's second innings, they got 361, Khawaja getting 97, but the South African bowlers all stuck to the task. Rabada getting a wicket, and even Bavuma coming on to bowl, and he ended up getting a wicket. But a good solid performance by the South African bowlers, all of them, winning a first test pretty comfortably.
Well, some impressive performances with bat and ball were on display at the Wacker. Proteas debutant Keshav Maharaj, after a slow start to his test career, came back hard and claimed 3 important wickets.
Yeah, he did. And as I've just alluded to, I think that he did a really good job. And he would have thought with 3 world-class seamers that he'd be sort of, protected a little bit and they'd be able to take wickets the other end. But when you lose one of your frontline seamers, you've got to now assume the role of being a bit more aggressive in your bowling and be able to take wickets, not just sort of do that holding role. And I think he did really well. He showed the maturity beyond his years. And, for the first 2 test matches, I think he did his job really well.
Mark Proctor, Alistair Campbell's just pinched the words right out of my mouth. That maturity by Maharaj.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was, again, just emphasising the fact that when Dale Steyn got injured, number 1 strike bowler for South Africa, and everyone realises what a great job he's done over the years and took that vital wicket of Warner. But here was Maharaj. Suddenly he's been thrust into the fore because one bowler light, and he had to do a job. And he played a few shots in the first innings and looked pretty comfortable in the test arena. And then he came back and bowled really, really well and captured 3 wickets on basically what is a very good batting pitch. If anything, it helped the seam bowlers. So for the debutant, it was a great start.
But I suppose it's also important to look at the captaincy of Faf du Plessis. You've lost your key strike bowler and you have relatively young players on the side, and just that ability to encourage them and produce such a result.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's good as a captain when you've got youngsters there because they've got no fear of what lies ahead. And,
no fear of the unknown.
Yeah, and whereas if you've got elder statesmen, they're going, oh, geez, I'm going to be a few inches shorter at the end of this and find something to complain about because they know how hard the slog's going to be. But, in Rabada in particular, I think that, he was invigorated by the sort of leadership role that he would have had to take because Steyn was obviously missing. And he did it really well. Philander was the elder statesman and got the ball in the right areas. So I think that that was the catalyst for how this actual tour panned out, was that injury to Steyn, and that galvanised that bowling unit. And the rest is history, as they say.
Mo Proctor, we did see a couple of interviews where Maharaj spoke, as did many of the other Proteas, and one thing that they talked about was this brotherhood.
Yeah, he talked about not a team spirit, not a team. He talked about a brotherhood, which makes, that team very, very well knitted. Very much a team spirit, the brotherhood. And I think that's where Faf du Plessis' influence came in. Obviously a magnificent leader because Dale Steyn, after 12 overs, he's out of the whole series. AB de Villiers had his operation on his elbow. So you could argue that two of South Africa's frontline players, Dale Steyn, AB de Villiers, one playing in the Test series after 12 overs that Dale Steyn had bowled. So someone had to group that team together, and that had to go to the captain. There's no one else that can really do it. The captain leads by example. He sets the tone, and he obviously set a fantastic tone for the fact that Maharaj comes out and said, this is not a team, it's a brotherhood.
And obviously Warner scoring 97, he's a great batsman, absolutely world class, and he would sort of drive fear into any bowler.
Yeah, I mean, look, his record speaks for itself, and he's one of those opening batsmen, much like Matthew Hayden used to do in yesteryears, that he's such an imposing figure at the crease. He's only short and small in stature, as opposed to Hayden with the big chest and big guy, and was there to take you apart. Warner's that little muscle that gets out there, and he's not afraid to play his shots. He's not afraid to score quickly. Put the pressure on the bowlers. So he's done it for a long time in all forms of the game for Australia. So I think he'll be disappointed that he got out. Then he likes to convert, and if he had kept going in that first innings, who knows what might have happened. I think his dismissal was sort of where it all started going wrong for Australia. So no doubt about it, a class player. And but he would feel, if he looks back on the series, that maybe he would have liked to have contributed maybe just a wee bit more.
But I think the important one here, we mentioned Warner, and second innings they put on a reasonable start. They put on 50 odd, and Warner looking ominously confident again. He went to 35 when what happened? Bavuma, an unbelievable run out. I was privileged to sort of be here and watch it on television because I saw Jonty Rhodes many years ago do it against Inzamam Al-Haq in Brisbane in Pakistan World Series in '92 World Cup. And to see Bavuma do something like that, and there wasn't a run out on, but it was just the fantastic athleticism of the young man, and that changed virtually. We said the first innings when Warner got out, it changed the momentum, but certainly, there's absolutely no doubt that run out created huge confidence in the South African team, and they literally haven't looked back since then until the third Test match.
Well, we talk about Warner and world-class batting, but that partnership, Dean Elgar and JP Duminy, scoring 250 runs.
Well, that's what sealed it. Simple as that, really. I mean, there was parity first innings, 242, 244. Who bats better in the second innings? And Dean Elgar, credit to him as well. But JP Dermody, I mean, sensational innings, and that partnership, was the partnership that sealed it. And don't forget down the order as well. Quinton de Kock got some, and Vernon Philander as well. Got 4 wickets in the first innings. Comes back and scores some runs as well, important runs in that second innings, 70 odd. So that's probably why that they leant towards him in that sort of man of the series conundrum, is that this first test match he really made some significant contributions. So that second innings what did it for me, and JP Dermody can be very proud of what he did there.
And I suppose the issue of JP Dermody, he was obviously coming on the back of a number of poor showings.
Yeah, it was great to see him score some runs. Obviously, there's always been a little bit of pressure on him, and particularly with AB de Villiers being out of the team, someone is going to have to be dropped when he comes back, and his name has been bandied around. But he came in 2 down for 45 in the second innings, so under a little bit of pressure. And he really played fantastically well, and that partnership of 250 really put the victory ceiling right there. And it just needed the bowlers to bowl pretty well, the fielders to field pretty well, and it was going to be victory. But that 250-run partnership was the winning of the game.
Khawaja was looking good. Would have been disappointed to obviously come out just before that 100, scoring 97. Neville again did very well with a 60.
But the star of the show, Kagiso Rabada, that's the be-all and end-all of that second innings for Australia. Dale Steyn no longer there. They needed someone to step up, and how good was he? 5 for 92, and everyone else chipping in around him. But he was the colossus in that second innings, having been given something to bowl to because of the fantastic batting by particularly Dermody and Elgar. He comes in and cleans it up. So terrific effort by Kagiso Rabada to seal it for South Africa.
What weight to manage on those young shoulders at only 21?
Yeah, fantastic. We've always discussed it off air and said, well, does he like the new ball or doesn't he like the new ball, Rabada? And you always would go to your quicker bowlers to open the bowling. But maybe he doesn't like that new ball. Philander obviously is a good new ball bowler, as is Abbott. So it's always a bit of a toss-up as who you give the new ball to. And I don't think Rabada really minds it, but it's the way he bowls, it's the way he conducts himself. And he's got a lot of maturity. 21 years old. He's more like a 31 than a 21.
Certainly, and South Africa were absolutely clinical, winning that match by 177 runs to lead the 3-match series at that point, 1-0.
Yep, and it was a fantastic start. And as I said, after a day and a half, who would have thought that would have been the outcome of the Test match? They were under the cosh, were South Africa, no doubt about that. And to come back from that was a magnificent effort, and that would have given them huge confidence going into the second Test.
Yeah, huge confidence going to Hobart, and problems for Australia. They lost their 4th Test match in a row. They'll be really under the pump, and South Africa, huge confidence, and looking forward to Hobart.
After the whacker domination by the Proteas, Steve Smith and co were forced to make some hard changes and selected 3 of their own debutants, Joe Burns, Callum Ferguson and Joe Minnie, to face a fighter Proteas team in Hobart. With heavy rain forecast for most of the test, a stop-start affair seemed to be on the cards, but this was not the case. Some sensational bowling by Vernon Philander with 5 for 21, Kyle Abbott 3 for 41, saw the home team tumble to a desperate 85 all out in their first innings, amongst the lowest scores scored by that Aussie side.
You would have thought that. I mean, it was a crazy situation, wasn't it? Look, to be fair, that pitch was very, very sporty indeed, and overcast conditions. I think that the groundsman, from what I know about preparation of Test match wickets, you've got to leave a bit of moisture there to keep it together for the whole duration. I think maybe he thought he would have got a bit more sunshine prior to the first ball, but I don't think he was able to get in there, and it was very sporty, Procky. You would have loved to bowl on that. Yeah,
I mean, it was another good toss to win. And I think Steve Smith was asked what would he have done, and he wasn't that confident about fielding. He would have fielded, sure, it was green, but I think the South African bowlers utilised it really, really well. Minnie, you boy, bowling all-rounder, he gets 10, and no one else scored double figures. But it was just the way South African bowled. They were just persevering, the right line and length, and 85 all out is. Even if you bowl really, really well, it's a bit of a shocker.
But I suppose that's the point, the writing is on the wall.
Yeah, look, it was one of those perfect tailor-made pitches for Vernon Philander. If you want justification as well for him being named man of the series. This was it. I mean, good contributions in Perth, and then backs it up with 5 for 21 in this particular game. And you know, once you get bowled out for 85 in a Test match, you're always going to be under the pump. You know, it panned out that way in the end. But a terrific bowling effort. Yes, good seaming conditions, good bowling conditions. But you'd have to say that Australia did capitulate.
And I suppose de Kock, you can't rule him out. 104 and Bavuma 74, and them scoring a 144-run partnership.
Yeah, terrific stuff. And, you know, it wasn't the easiest out there. You know, de Kock played with his usual freedom, with some gay abandon, and threw the bat around a bit, but was really good in picking length. And Bavuma was his old nuggety self, you know, getting in behind the ball, cuts, pulls, little, you know, nudges around the corner, and perfect. And, you know, that partnership of 144 really put the nail in the coffin, because it was going to be tough for Australia to come back from that.
And Roboto coming back in again with figures of 4 for 34.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, everyone bowled well, but it was the batting in that first innings. As you say, the de Kock and Bavuma getting all those runs made such a huge difference. And really, as happened in Perth, when we saw that big 250-run partnership here, these two putting on such a big partnership, put Australia under huge pressure. You know, making 326 in answer to Australia's 85, with having lost 4 Test matches in a row. With having a collapse in the first Test at Perth when they were sort of 0 for 108, huge pressure for them. So it was going to be a real uphill struggle from them.
And we must talk about the chief instigator, Abbott, with the 6 for 71.
Yeah, what a bowling performance.
Coming in as a replacement.
I mean, at one stage in the second innings, Australia 79 for 1. So they're looking like they're a bit of a comeback here. You know, Warner's looking good. So if they can get some good second innings runs, we saw it in Perth, so there's no reason why this good Australian side can't get 350, 400. Then suddenly it's a struggle for South Africa in the fourth innings to win the game. So they're looking good, 79 for 1, and then Warner gets out and Abbott comes into his own, and well, yeah, it was outstanding. And the pitch had lost some of its juice by then, so he still had to do some bowling, get the ball in the right area, get them to play.
What sort of pressure, if any, would Abbott have been under? Obviously, it was a toss-up between him and Morne Morkel for selection.
Huge pressure, huge pressure. I mean, Abbott's always been the unlucky guy that's missed out, you know, in the squad, and reasons for him not to play. Well, the selectors this time found reasons for him to play. I think there were a lot of people, you know, in South Africa and around the world were going, guys, crazy, you're leaving out Morne Morkel, he's fit for Kyle Abbott. What are you thinking? And so he would have gone in with that. He, you know, he wouldn't have been adverse to looking at all the columns being written in the social media, and you know, people saying, what the heck are you doing in the side? And you know, he responded in the best possible way. You know, 3 for in the first innings, and then match-winning 6 for in the second innings. So hugely pleasing for him. And he's a likable guy. You know, he's a workhorse. He really tries hard, and he's always willing to learn. And he ran up, gave everything, got the ball in the right area, and got his just rewards.
So, Procky, both him, Abbott, and the selectors would have been pleased with that performance.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, he's really deserved to play, and as we've discussed, Morne Morkel was obviously the one to play. The selectors felt otherwise, and hugely justified Kyle Abbott. And the Australians, when he was on a roll, Steve Smith said he went through 11 overs in that second innings when he didn't score a run. Now that's huge. The wicket was doing a little bit, didn't have the venom that it had on the first day, but it did enough to just assist the bowlers. But it's that constant nagging away, that line and length, that eventually Australia succumbed, because Warner got 45, Khawaja 64, Smith got 30, and then no one else double figures. And suddenly from 140 odd for 2 to 160 all out. So just a brilliant spell of bowling.
Well, the Proteas were ruthless, and they won by an innings and 80 runs to lead the 3-match series 2-0.
Yeah, and played and thoroughly deserved it. There's no doubt about that. I think this is when Australia hit rock bottom. This is when all the changes had to happen insofar as the selectors are concerned, a different team. But the 2 collapses were catastrophic, really. I mean, 85 all out in the first innings, and then from 121 for 2 to 161 all out, and you know, losing 8 wickets for 40 in the second innings. So they've never done that in their history, really. And there was a very glum Stephen Smith that sat at the post-match conference, and he sat there, I'm embarrassed to be here. And I think all of Australia felt that. They're a very proud nation, much like South Africa, really want their teams to do well. And to see them annihilated like this in Hobart would have been a very bitter pill to swallow.
Certainly, with that one full day lost to rain, it only took the Proteas 2.5 days to claim victory. This defeat sent the Australians to a 5th consecutive Test match loss. And the skipper, Steve Smith, had this to say after the Test match.
How much are you hurting at the moment?
Yeah, I am hurting.
You know, it's another disappointing performance to lose 8 for 30 again today. Another big collapse. It's happening way too often. We've got to start finding a way to turn things around. You know, whether the ball's seaming or spinning or swinging, we don't have an answer at the moment. We're not resilient enough. We're not digging in enough. We're not having the pride in our wicket, and you know, it's tough. And you know, the South African bowlers, when there's something in the wicket, Philander, Abbott and Rabada, they're world class. You know, we only have to look at this morning. I don't think I scored for the first 11 overs of the game. They hit the top of off and get the ball seaming both ways and don't give you any freebies. They're bowling on a 10-cent piece. They're not giving us anything to score and challenging our defences, and our defences aren't standing up to that and the pressures that they're building. So we've got to be much better.
Is that humiliating, that kind of loss?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm embarrassed to be sitting here, to be honest with you. Too many times we've lost wickets in clumps. You know, 8 for 30 today, 10 for 85 in the first innings, and you're not winning any games of cricket when you're doing that. And it's happening way too consistently for my liking. At the moment, it's not good enough. I'm quite sick of saying it, to be honest with you. It's happened 5 tests in a row now. We've lost 5 in a row, and for an Australian cricket team, that's humiliating. And yeah, I'm embarrassed to be sitting up here in this position, to be honest with you.
While one captain was picking up the pieces, the other was celebrating a unified team on a conclusive series win away from home. Faf du Plessis had nothing but praise for his charges as they sent Australia to a humiliating series loss with one more test to play in Adelaide.
To get 8 wickets for 40 runs plus minus is one of those sessions that we will always remember as a team, that won us a series and was unbelievable. So yeah, that ranks up right at the top. Obviously to do it in the one days against Australia and beat them 5-0, but I think to come here to Australia, we as a team know that coming here is an extremely hard challenge to come to Australia and beat a really good team. They've got a full strength team full of, there's no injuries there, so to come here and do what we've done, yeah, right up there in certainly my career.
It was not only the rain in Hobart which put a dampener on the cricketing world, but South African captain Faf du Plessis was found guilty of ball tampering. Gentlemen, this wasn't the first time that Faf du Plessis has been found guilty of ball tampering, but he professed his innocence.
Yeah, caught with his hands in the sweet jar twice, not once but twice. Yeah, a lot made of this, and obviously on this occasion it was to do with a mint in his mouth, and the match referee Andy Pycroft just going by the letter of the law and finding him guilty of contravening, putting artificial substances on the cricket ball, which is there in black and white, so he was just applying the law. And Faf du Plessis said, you know, he wasn't altering the condition of the ball. I think it's one of those things that it's been an accepted practice for time immemorial. I think a lot of ex-players, the media, everyone was accepting of the fact that you know, this happens all the time. You know, why make a big deal of it? And he said he'd done nothing wrong. He hadn't altered the condition of the ball. And on the other hand, he admitted that he had a big peppermint in his mouth that he was sucking at the time, and obviously that would have been applied to the ball. But you know, it's one of those things. What it has done is brought to the fore a need for a rethink and a need to sit down. The MCC, who are the guardians of the laws of cricket, to sit down and obviously look at this and see if it needs adjusting, which I think it does.
Clarify certain issues. Procky, the interesting thing is that almost all former cricketers and top cricketers currently spoke out about it and said, you know what, we do it all the time.
Yeah, I think that's the surprising thing that's come out, this whole ball tampering episode. No artificial substance on the ball. And Faf du Plessis quite openly did it. By the letter of the law, he was wrong, certainly was. But the fact that all the other cricketers around, Australians included, have said, you know, that doesn't really make a difference to the ball. It's not going to swing anymore. And I think this thing that surprised me and a couple of other people is it's more normally the reverse swing that's over the last few years which has really come to the fore, not normal swing. It's an artificial swing, which is roughing up the ball on the one side, which is scratching it and throwing it on the turf to make it.
So he may have broken the law, but certainly in the eyes of fellow cricketers, it's not really a big issue.
It wasn't a big issue, but make no mistake, the Aussies weren't going to let him get away with it, even though they might have agreed with him. They were going to persecute him. They were going to make him stress, which they did do, and getting hounded by the press and obviously booed in Adelaide as well. So they weren't going to let him get away with it lightly. Which even though they wrote articles saying he's done nothing wrong, it's okay. They still made him pay for it insofar as.
Crocky, do you think that was a factor in that final test?
I don't think so. I think Faf proved his resilience, his character, and the way he came through that whole week. I mean, he had a tremendous week. And of all the people around him, including some of the team members, the management, the staff, he was probably the most cool, calm, and collected guy. He didn't seem to worry too much, although you can see it in him. He's got that resilience, although he doesn't show it. And it showed when he came out to bat. The crowd booed him. But he had a sort of, not a little smile on his face, but he casually was walking out. And he must have felt a little bit hurt by that, because he knows in his heart of hearts that he's done nothing wrong. And here the crowd is booing him. And what did he do? Captain Courageous. I mean, he scored a magnificent 100 under the circumstances.
So with the series wrapped up, the teams headed off to the much-anticipated pink ball day-night test match at the Adelaide Oval. With nothing but pride to play for, the Australians once again made some wholesale changes to their squad, bringing in 3 more debutants. South Africa, on the other hand, had just one, bringing in Tabriz Shamsi for his first cap.